The torches hiss, spitting hot wax onto the cold cobblestones of the Palatine Hill. It is late in the Republic, and the frantic piping of flute players works hard to drown out the weeping. Tonight, a horrifying wedding night ritual Rome tried to erase from history is being enacted behind heavy cedar doors. The bride, trembling beneath the suffocating weight of the flame-colored flammeum veil, is not walking toward a husband, but toward a consecrated stone in the center of the room. In her hand, she clutches the woolen knot of her girdle, a complex tie meant to be broken only by violence. This was not merely a marriage, it was a transfer of flesh as property, sealed by a rite so archaic that later imperial historians would scrub the details from their texts. Why did the Senate eventually demand silence regarding these midnight processions? And what exactly was required of the bride before the groom was ever allowed to enter? Silence is often the loudest confession of guilt. If you enjoy these dark histories, leave a like and subscribe and comment below where you're listening from. And now, back to the story. The public cacophony of the flute players and the bawdy songs of the procession fades, replaced by the heavy, suffocating silence of the domus. The bride stands before the threshold, the physical demarcation between her past life and her legal erasure. The doorposts glisten in the torchlight, smeared thick with wolf's fat and wound with bands of raw, unwashed wool. These are ancient, superstitious wards meant to keep malevolent spirits from entering. But tonight, they serve a dual purpose: to keep the new possession in. She is not permitted to walk across this line. She must be lifted, carried like a statue or a sack of grain, lest her foot stumble and bring a curse down upon the house. Inside, the atrium is a cavern of shadows. The air is thick with the scent of beeswax, stale incense, and the dry dust of ancestors. Here, the final legal stripping occurs. She is handed a torch and a bowl of water, fire and water, the elemental basics of life. By accepting them, she acknowledges that she can no longer survive without his provision. Then, she is forced to recite the formula. Ubi tu Gaius, ego Gaia. Where you are Gaius, I am Gaia. It is a ritual of identity suicide. Her father's name, her childhood, her individual spirit, all are dissolved. She is no longer a person. She is the female shadow of the master, absorbed into his legal manus, the hand of power that holds the right of life and death. Ownership is absolute only when the name is forgotten. She is led to the lectus genialis, the marriage bed positioned symbolically opposite the main door. It is not a place of intimacy. It is an altar of duty. The wood is dark, polished by generations of hands, cold to the touch. The pronubai, the matrons who serve as witnesses and guards, surround her. They exhibit a cold efficiency, stripping away the outer layers of the saffron veil, removing the jewelry that might bruise or cut. They leave her only the simple tunic and the woolen knot cinched tight at her waist. Their whispers are not comforting. They speak of duty, of the bloodlines of Rome, of the necessity of heirs. They offer her the mercy of the Roman matron. Bear sons, and you will eventually rule this house from the shadows. Fail, and you will be nothing. It is a cold transaction. Safety is offered in exchange for total submission. But as the matrons retreat, snuffing out the lamps until only the dying embers in the hearth remain, a small, quiet will asserts itself. She does not weep. She stands rigid near the bed, her hand resting over the complex knot. It is the last barrier. She fixes her eyes on the busts of his ancestors lining the walls, their wax faces judging her in the gloom. She breathes slowly, turning her fear into a cold, hard stone in her gut. She waits. Does the bolt keep the terror out or in? The heavy door creaks, disturbing the stagnant air. The groom enters, not with the warmth of a lover, but with the heavy, measured step of a proprietor inspecting a new acquisition. The room is nearly pitch black, save for the single dying coal in the brazier that casts long, distorted shadows against the limestone walls. He stops before her. In the silence, the breathing of two strangers fills the space. His ragged and expectant, hers shallow and controlled. This is the moment the Senate and the priests designed. It is the collision of the vius, the force of the male, against the pudicitia, the modesty of the female. He reaches out. The condition of her survival is absolute compliance. To resist is to violate the pax deorum, the peace of the gods. If she fights, she risks being returned to her father in disgrace, a damaged vessel worth nothing to the Republic. If she vanishes into the role, she loses the self. But she does not tremble now. As his hands find the rough wool of the cingulum, the belt at her waist, she delivers her refusal. It is not spoken. She does not scream or strike. She simply turns to ice. She does not shift to aid him. She does not angle her body to make the task easier. "I am the marble," her posture says. The focus narrows to the woolen knot. This is the nodus herculeus, the knot of Hercules. It is a flat, complex tangle of wool, designed specifically to be difficult to untie. It is a test. Tradition dictates that the husband must untie it. He cannot cut it, for iron brings bad luck to a marriage bed, and he cannot tear it, or he invites poverty. He must have the patience to unravel the complexity. It is meant to symbolize his virility, and the number of sons he will sire, specifically 70, like the children of Hercules. But in the dark, with adrenaline and wine souring his blood, the knot becomes a torment. His fingers fumble with the coarse wool. The silence in the room shifts from expectant to oppressive. The soft pressure of the ritual, the expectation of a smooth transition, hardens into deprivation. He is deprived of the easy conquest. The longer he struggles with the knot, the more her silence grows in volume. What was meant to break her, the overwhelming pressure of the moment, inverts. The discipline instilled in her since birth, the hours of standing motionless, the suppression of laughter and tears, now becomes her armor. She watches him struggle with a piece of string. The conqueror is defeated by a loop of wool. Authority crumbles when it is forced to fumble in the dark. Here lies the answer to why Rome sought to sanitize this ritual, why the detailed descriptions of the nodus and the simulated capture fade from later texts. The ritual was not a celebration of union. It was a ritualized reenactment of the rape of the Sabine women. It was a yearly, nightly reminder that the foundation of the empire wasn't law, but theft. The price of Roman civilization was the terrifying conversion of a person into a prize. The why is power. By forcing the bride to endure the terror of the capture and the groom to enact the role of the captor, the state validated its own violent origins. But tonight, the ritual falters. The knot tightens under his sweating hands. He curses softly, a violation of the sacred silence. He looks at her face, seeking fear, but finds only the blank mask of the statue. She has retreated so deep within herself that he cannot touch her. The physical body remains, a tribute to the Manus marriage, but the spirit has fortified itself behind the wall of the ritual. She has paid the price, her external freedom, but in doing so, she has recognized the frailty of his control. He eventually pulls the knot free, the wool falling to the stone floor with a soft hiss. but the victory is hollow. He has untied the belt, but he has not conquered the woman. Can you own something that refuses to be held? Centuries dissolve into the damp, compressed earth of a modern excavation site on the slopes of the Esquiline Hill. Here, far beneath the bustle of modern Rome, the sterile LED lights of archaeology reveal what the imperial texts tried to hide. Amidst the shards of imported pottery and broken hairpins, a peculiar type of votive offering surfaces. It is not gold, nor polished marble intended for public display. It is simple terracotta, cheap and ubiquitous, molded by anonymous hands. It depicts a woman's torso, her hand resting protectively over the woolen knot at her waist. These clay figures were not meant for the Senate or the history books. They were hidden in the foundations of the Temple of Juno Lucina, the goddess of childbirth and the protector of women. They represent a silent, wordless rite of memory. We must imagine the Roman matron returning here, perhaps years after that terrifying wedding night. She is no longer the trembling girl in the saffron veil. She is the mistress of the household, a figure of authority who holds the keys to the storerooms. Yet, she comes alone, without the flute players or the witnesses. She brings a clay effigy of her bridal self, the knot still intact, and buries it in the consecrated earth. It is not an offering of gratitude, it is a deposition of evidence. A survivor does not offer thanks, she offers testimony. The evidence for the true nature of the ritual lies not just in the wool, but in the cold iron that accompanied it. The fragmentary texts of the grammarian Festus and the Roman questions of Plutarch preserve a detail that most preferred to forget. They describe the hasta caelibaris, the celibate spear. Before the bride could be led to the bed to face the knot, her hair had to be parted into 6 braids. But a comb was forbidden. The parting had to be done with the tip of a spear, and not just any spear. Tradition demanded it be a weapon that had been extracted from the body of a slain gladiator or a soldier killed in battle. This is the hidden truth, the terracotta figures whisper. The wedding was not a contract. It was a ritualized act of war. The groom was the conqueror, wielding the death-soaked iron. The bride was the conquered city, her walls breached, her defenses stripped. The woolen knot was not a charming symbol of fertility or a test of the husband's patience. It was the final, desperate fortification of the besieged. By burying the image of the knot, the matrons were acknowledging the violence of their own transition. They were preserving the memory of the capture that the state insisted was merely a benign tradition. The erasure was deliberate. As Rome grew from a city-state to a global superpower, the narrative of marriage by capture became embarrassing. It suggested that the Pax Romana was built on the back of abduction. Jurists and poets began to rewrite the history, claiming the knot symbolized the bond of love, and the spear symbolized the protection of the husband. But the clay in the earth does not lie. The women knew that the spear point smelled of old blood, and the knot was a symbol of the struggle, not the union. The ritual was a magical binding, a way to contain the dangerous, chaotic energy of the female spirit under the iron rule of the male. Does the prisoner ever truly forgive the jailer? The scribes were diligent. As the Republic rotted into the empire, the rough edges of Roman history were sanded down. The violent, superstitious rites of the early hill tribes were deemed unfit for the masters of the known world. The hasta caelibaris, the spear of the dead soldier, was replaced in art by the benign torch of Hymen, the god of marriage. The terrified capture was reinterpreted as a modest reluctance. The names of the women who endured the iron and the wool were not recorded in the fasti. They appear in the genealogies only as extensions of male power. The daughter of Scipio, the wife of Cato, the mother of Gracchi. The individual Gaia is dissolved into the collective silence of the state. Walk the ruins of the Palatine Hill tonight. The cedar doors are gone, rotted into the earth a millennium ago. The wolf's fat and the wool have long since decayed. But the echo of the ritual remains in the stone itself. The silence that hangs over these ruins is not peaceful. It is heavy. It is the silence of the atrium after the flute players have gone. The silence of 1,000,000 women taught that their highest virtue was to be invisible. The history books offer us the speeches of Cicero and the battles of Caesar, but they withhold the interior life of the bride standing in the dark. We return to the image that started this chronicle. The torch hissing in the night, the woman clutching the woolen knot. But now, the context has shifted. She is no longer just a victim of a singular night. She is the ghost in the machine of Western civilization. The knot was never really about the husband's patience or the wife's fertility. It was a symbol of the complex, tangled lie that Rome told itself. That order could be born from violence without consequence. The knot lies undone on the floor of history, a tangled mess of superstition and control that we are only just beginning to examine. The torch has burned down to the handle. The room is cold. The groom has entered, and the door is shut forever. Subscribe, hit the bell, and like. What else has been untied and forgotten in the dark?